Let's speak now to Andreas Krieg. He's an associate professor at the School of Security Studies at King's College London. He joins us from there. Thank you for your time today. So clearly the situation on the ground is fluid, but it does seem now, though, that opposition forces have control of Aleppo. They say they're going to take control of Homs. What do you make of their rapid advance? Has it taken you by surprise?
I think they have taken everyone by surprise. It just shows how hollowed out the pro-Assad side and front has been along this northwestern part of Syria. For a long time, we've all come to terms with the fact that the pro-Assad side is winning, gradually winning, or potentially has won the counter-revolutions. We knew, or we thought, that the Iranian backing of the pro-Assad side, Hezbollah as well being integrated into it, would have been robust enough to actually push back the various or contain the various opposition forces that were still somewhat trapped in smaller enclaves. The fact is, what is most surprising is not the offensive itself, because we obviously know that Hezbollah has been strategically weakened. We also know that Iran is on the back foot. The axis of resistance has been degraded, like Hezbollah's network has been degraded in Lebanon. So there was a moment of weakness, and it was to be expected that HTS would eventually, the Syrian opposition would eventually try to exploit that vulnerability. But I think what is most surprising is the speed with which they were able to seize territory and seize, the main artery of logistics across northwestern Syria.
Right. So what's your explanation for that? Is it the weapons that they've got? Do we know where those have come from? Is it the support that they appear to have from Turkey? How do you explain it?
It's a multitude of different things. I mean, for the moment, we don't really know how many fighters exactly are still affiliated with it. How much of it is the core of HTS that we expected a couple of years ago to be around 15 to 20,000 fighters. We suspect that, number one, I mean, if you run and operate in a vacuum, it's quite easy to seize territory. Also, they probably have had quite a lot of support from the countryside. I think the strength of HTS at the moment and the strength of the opposition is very much due to the weakness of the pro-Assad side. They were spread thinly, the front line wasn't properly secured, and it's a little bit like a domino effect. Once a key front line is crumbling, we've seen pro-Assad forces withdrawing, and they probably operationally withdrawing quite far south. That weakness has been exploited. Obviously, weaponry plays a role, but I think with HTS in particular, it's the way they operate. It's obviously they have had support from Turkey in the past. We expect that they get intelligence support from Turkey still. None of this obviously has been confirmed by Turkey or anyone else. But beyond that, I think it's really the very strong conviction that the revolution is still alive, and obviously they have a very strong creed to which they operate, with which they operate. The fact that they're part of this Islamist, Salafist sort of spectrum of the revolutionaries seems to give them pride and seems to push them forward in what they see as a religious battle between good versus evil. And after all, they are operating in a territory where most people locally still are rooting for the opposition, because if they have a choice between HTS, the opposition, and this repressive regime of what is Assad, they would choose the opposition, despite the fact that the opposition might not be ideal.
And in terms of what happens next, we've seen Russia already engage in strikes against the opposition forces. Tell us a bit more about how critical their involvement is in terms of how the Assad regime comes out of this, and perhaps also remind us as to why Russia has got involved in this in the first place.
When Russia got involved in late 2015, it was part of, obviously, they were providing a very important, crucial air component that neither the opposition had or the Assad regime had at the time. So it was a massive game changer and force multiplier. The same Russia is trying to provide now. But I would say that without a force on the ground, you will not be able to win this offensive or defend adequately. In the end of the day, this was always been won on the ground, even if air power was an important force multiplier. I think what needs to be seen now is what is the capacity of HTS? What is their overall strategy? I think they themselves must have been surprised by the speed with which they were able to conquer territory. And if they spread too thinly across what is quite a large sway of land. And so far, they've very much concentrated on a string of pearls, if you will, of key logistical hubs in northwestern Syria. They haven't really been able to seize the entire countryside to the left, to the right of that main corridor. And if they don't have the manpower to do that, then it's quite likely that if the Assad regime regroups, if Iran was to support and other non-state actors on the pro-Assad regime side would help to support the regime, that there is quite a lot of vulnerability for them to exploit and push back. So it has to be seen yet to what extent HTS is able to sustain not just the momentum, but also hold the territory that they've seized and kind of build kind of protect their flank, if you will. And obviously air power, Russian air power is going to be very, very crucial because HTS doesn't yet have the weapon systems to operate a very successful air defense.
Okay, really good to get your analysis. Andreas Krieg, Associate Professor at the School of Security Studies at King's College, London.
Thank you.